Well, today we're celebrating Earth Day. It's very exciting to have lived since 1970 into these times when Earth Day was begun. How many can remember when Earth Day was begun? I remember I was in high school and we did a whole high school series of events where we did a march in the town and everything. And I remember back then feeling the urgency of the times that we were living in to clean up the earth. And here we are, 2016. So we have a lot to celebrate and a lot to talk about today, about Earth Day. I want to begin with a poem by Howard Thurman called The Growing Edge, and we're going to end our service with a song by Howard Thurman. All around us, worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being reborn. The first fruits ripen on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth, against a time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It's the extra breath from the exhausted being, the one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in the moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and people have lost their reason, the source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash, the birth of the child, life's most dramatic answer to death. This is the growing edge incarnate. Let us look well to the growing edge. And I would say that for each of our lives. Let us look well to the growing edges. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. And that's why we come together like this, in human groups seeking to be spiritually uplifted together. We join here to transcend our isolated selves, right? Isn't that true? We join here to reconnect, to come to know ourselves, and to feel a sense of being at home, here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other. We come together. Let us create this sacred space together, from within, so without. Let's just take a moment of silence as I ring the bell to bring us into our sacred space together.
Good morning. This opening song is the chant Earth My Body combined with an original by Nicole Sangsuri. And it ends with the chant, so if you know it, please join along.
Carry fistfuls of bones. I trust they will lead me
grandchildren are here. The rose, the crow, and the deer. I am surrounded by light, the light of story. I need to quiet my mind, I need to listen. We are surrounded by light, the light of story. We need to quiet our minds, we need to listen. Earth, my body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. My body,
Maybe we can stand up and do this.
my breath, and fire, my spirit. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Two more times. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Last time. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. My body, water, my life, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit.
And with that, turn to someone next to you and say, I'm glad you're here. Namaste. Thank you. Be together. So much love. That's why we come here, for all these hugs and smiles and love. This we know. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. Like the song says, she loves us, wants to hold us, communicate with us, just as much as we want to communicate with her. These words were attributed to Chief Seattle. This we know, the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. If men spit upon the ground, they spit upon themselves. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. We did not weave the web of life, we are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do it to ourselves. Entwined. Let's go into a moment of prayer together. What is prayer for you, if not connecting? Connecting with your higher consciousness, with a power that is in this universe that we call love. We are intertwined. Spirit of life, creator of love, I am entwined in your delicate web of mutuality. The life energy that makes us reach for the sun also moves us to become wrapped like the strong, bittersweet vine and the delicate sweet pea around all those I meet and love. I am entwined. Here in the tangle of my daily life, I feel your pulse and sense what it means to be alive. Here, twisted and knotted, I thrive, seeking the light that will pull from me the fragrant blossom of love. Spirit of life, help us to experience the beauty of our interwoven and intricate web, that we might always embrace without reserve all those who touch our lives. Come and be with us now. in this moment of entwinement with you and our hearts with one another. May each heart be touched. May each need be met. May no one go away thirsty or hungry, but truly the depths of our souls be touched and healed. Aho. Amen. So it is. Got a great song next. It's called I Give Thanks. May I move through fear to awareness.
So this one is sing along and around. So first I'm going to teach you part number 1. And once we have that down, then I'll teach you part number 2. Does that sound good?
Good.
The words are, I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. So I'll sing the line and you can repeat back. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way.
I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way.
I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way.
I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way.
Sing it together a couple times. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. Okay, so that's the first part. I'm going to teach the second part to the groups on the side. So if you're in the side, you're going to sing this part, and then I'm going to bring in the middle part for that part that we just sang. So just follow me. We give thanks. We give thanks. We give thanks. We give thanks. Keep it going. We give thanks. We give thanks. We give thanks. Keep it going. Middle part. I give thanks. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. Keep it going. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. Let us learn to move through anger, to dream without fear, live our lives with awareness. Let us learn to move through anger, to dream without fear, live our lives with awareness. Everybody, I give thanks. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. Bring it down. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. I give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way.
Beautiful. You could hear in that verse of the song that she sang while we were singing the I Give Thanks part about asking that we might be fearless. And the song is that beautiful combination of how can we be fearless? Because we're giving thanks for unknown blessings that are already on their way. So that's how we can be fearless. So our two scripture readings from today are from Hindu texts. And this first one is from a writer called Athara Vedanta. Make us fearless. Make us fearless from that which we fear. Make us fearless, O bounteous one. Assist us with your aid. May the atmosphere we breathe fearlessness into us. Fearless on earth and fearless in heaven. May fearlessness surround us, above and below. May we be without fear by night and by day. Let all the world be my friend. Oh. Isn't that a beautiful scripture? And now I've asked Karen to come and read a story from the Indian Jakarta sect. It's a beautiful little story about a fearless creature.
The name of this story is called The Brave Little Parrot. Once there was a parrot who lived in the forest. One day, the forest caught fire. Since the parrot was able to fly, she started to fly away. And then she heard the crying of the animals and the insects trapped in the forest. And when the parrot heard their cries for help, she thought to herself, I cannot fly away. I must go help my friends. So the parrot went to the river, where she soaked all her feathers and then flew back to the forest. She shook her feathers all over the forest, but it was very little water and not nearly enough to stop a forest fire. So she went back to the river, wet her feathers, and did this over and over and over again. But the fire was so strong and hot that her feathers were scorched and burned, and she was choking on the smoke. Even though she was close to dying, she kept going back and forth and back and forth. Well, up in the heavens, some of the gods were looking down and laughing and saying, "Oh, look at that silly little parrot. She's trying to put out a forest fire with her tiny wings." Well, one of the gods who wanted to see for himself, so he transformed himself into a big eagle, and he flew down. And he called out, "Hey, foolish parrot, what are you doing? You're not doing any good. You're about to get burned alive. Get away while you can." But the parrot replied, "You're such a big bird. Why don't you help me put out the fire? I don't need your advice. I need your help." Well, the little parrot said this with so much courage and conviction that the eagle, who was actually king of the gods, shed tears because he was so moved. His tears were so powerful that they put out the fire. And some of his tears also fell on the parrot's burned feathers. Wherever the tears fell, the feathers grew back in different colors. This is how the parrot gained its beautiful colored feathers. This story goes to show that you never know what effect one small creative action can have.
I feel like I'm singing with a choir of angels up here. So we're gonna sing some more. This is another round, so there are two parts. I'm not playing the St. Francis one yet, right? I'm playing what it says in the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each of us is an outlet.
So this is a quote from Ernest Holmes. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Prayer is a thought, a belief, a feeling. So there are two parts. And once you feel like you have it down, you can try singing the opposite part to the person next to you. Or on the other side of the room or whatever. And we'll hear a cascading melody. Each line is going to get sung 4 times. This is how it goes. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Prayer is a thought, a belief, a feeling. 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 Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God. This side, you keep singing this one. This side too. You're gonna sing the first part, okay? And in the middle, you're gonna sing the second part. All right? Ready? Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Praise God, I believe, an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Praise God, I believe, an outlet to God and an inlet to God. Praise God, I believe, an outlet to God. Bring it down. Each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. And each one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God.
So this was said by John Fire Deer. Listen to the air. Listen to the air. You can hear it, feel it, smell it, taste it. Listen to the air. Waniya Wankan, the holy air. Waniya Wankan renews all by its breath. Waniya Wankan, spirit, life, breath, renewal. It means all that. We sit together silently. We don't touch, but something is there. We feel it between us. It's a presence. A good way to start thinking about nature is to talk to it. Talk to the air. Talk to the rivers. Talk to the lakes. Talk to the winds as to our relatives. Listen, listen, and talk to the earth. Thank you, Tom. I was at the Pioneers Conference a couple years ago, and a Native woman got up on the stage. There was about 5,000 people there, and there was a big plant on the stage, and the first thing she did was walk over to the plant, and she just stood there listening. And then she started singing in a different language. Who knows if it was like speaking in tongues or her native language, but she started quietly singing a little song to the plant. Singing and singing to the plant on the stage with 5,000 people. It was the most beautiful, touching thing, and I see Dawn almost getting tears in her eyes. It was like that for us, like she was showing us, demonstrating what was so important, what we've forgotten, what some of it we remember sometimes, but how often do you go out in nature and really go up to a tree or a plant and really listen and speak to it? She wasn't just listening, in other words, but she was listening and then speaking something back in a beautiful little language. So, listening. I've asked Jean to come forward and read a poem by Mary Oliver, who is such a great listener to nature, isn't she? And then she speaks back in her poetry. She speaks back in such beautiful ways to nature.
Good morning. This is When I Am Among the Trees. When I'm among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locusts, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into this world to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine.
So all of this is leading to us remembering that we are intertwined. We are one. We can listen and speak. We are truly one with nature and with Mother Earth, much more so than we humans let ourselves ease into. So I'd like us to do this litany together where you repeat the words, "We are one." 12 times you're going to be saying, "We are one." And I'll say the parts in between, okay? So let's start out by saying it together. We are one. One people, one community, one earth, one spirit. We are one. The Coalfield family flooded out of their home by mountaintop removal. The baby with asthma who lives in the shadow of the coal coal-fired power plant, the miner with the black lung. We are one. The family whose drinking water is poisoned by fracking, the sick mother in Cancer Alley, the grandfather dead of heat stroke in another record heat wave. We are one. The Katrina victim in Louisiana, the Sandy victim in New Jersey, the refugee displaced by floodwaters in Bangladesh. We are one. The hunter whose family goes hungry because game has disappeared, the worker who can't get a job because his service was cut, the retiree who can't pay the heating bill. We are one. We are one. The young woman who fears bringing a child into the world, the adult who fears growing old, the child who fears growing up. We are one. The coal companies, the oil companies, the energy conglomerates that want to keep us apart, they don't want us talking to each other. They don't want us caring for one another, yet we are one. Today we close the circle. Today we break the silence. Today we find our voice. We are one. Today we listen to one another. Today we speak out for justice. Today we stand on the side of love. We are one. We will heal our wounded communities. We will heal our wounded earth. We will heal our wounded souls. We are one. We will dwell in beauty. We will abide in love. We will see the sacred in all. We are one. Isn't that a beautiful melody? We are one. Now, one of the most beautiful songs that I'm so thankful that Firefly can do this song, because I heard it during the week at our Circles of Eight meeting. Jane played it for us, and it was ringing in my soul. And then I called Firefly about the music, and I said, you know, this one song is going through my heart. I really wish you could sing it. And she said, oh my gosh, that's the main song I was thinking about for today. So I love those intuitive moments.
This is the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is darkness, let me sow light. Where there is injury, let me sow pardon. Where there is despair, let me sow hope. Where there is doubt,
Isn't that a beautiful version of that? Firefly's own version of that. Love that. Thich Nhat Hanh, who I got to be with for quite a few years, he would be speaking along and then he would ring the bell. Just randomly bring the bell in every now and then to call us back to present moment awareness. And he said, the bells of mindfulness are calling out to us, trying to wake us up, reminding us to look deeply at the impact that we have on our planet. The bells of mindfulness are sounding all over the earth. We are experiencing floods and droughts and massive wildfires. Sea ice is melting in the Arctic, and hurricanes and heat waves are killing thousands. The forests are fast disappearing, the deserts are growing, species are becoming extinct every day, and yet we continue to consume, ignoring the ringing bells. All of us know that our beautiful green planet is in danger. One way of walking on the earth has a great influence. Our way of walking on the earth has a great influence on all the plants and animals. Yet we act as if our daily lives have nothing to do with the condition of the world. We're like sleepwalkers, not knowing what we're doing or where we're heading. Whether we can wake up or not depends on whether we can walk mindfully on Mother Earth. The future of all life, including our own, depends on our mindful steps. We have to hear the bells of mindfulness that are sounding all across our planet. We have to start learning how to live in a way that a future will be possible for our children and our grandchildren. Thich Nhat Hanh, for spending your whole life trying to wake us up, bring us to mindfulness. He would often say, present moment, only moment. Present moment, only moment. Well, I had a challenge to be in the present moment through last night and this morning as I was working on the talk for today, because a strange thing kept happening on my computer. It's a fairly new computer, but this weird thing kept happening where I would type out the whole talk, and then I would go to, correct it or do something else, and the whole thing would disappear. And another thing would come in its place that I didn't know where it came from, and I had not written it. It was weird. It was probably coming from some other place on my computer or something, but it didn't just happen once. It happened over and over again, so I could not just write the sermon, so you have to take those things as messages. Terrible, weird messages. And so then I would get frustrated and I would go to sleep. And then in my dream, I had the strangest thing happen that was sort of similar to what was happening with the computer, which was that a whole thought form would come in, and then it was like a click, a shift, and it was like it was being replaced by another whole thought form. Whoa. So I knew that Spirit was trying to get something across to me. So I got up and I went out into the garage looking for paper for the printer, and in that box where the paper was, I put my hand on this book, Waking Up in Time. And it's written by Peter Russell, who was an old friend, acquaintance of mine in the 90s. And so I started leafing through it, couldn't resist the message. And I found some amazing things to share with you and talk to you about what we're going through right now. So it's a challenge for me to put it together this way because I couldn't write out a sermon, but I'm going to try to share some of the things from what I found in the early morning hours. So a scientist said, when a seed or an animal or a human is ripe, it must mature to its next phase, or not. This crisis on planet Earth has been coming for a long time. Its seeds were sown some 50,000 years ago when Homo sapiens, the creature with the enlarged neocortex, began to use its complex brain in new ways. Something different was walking on Earth. A species whose future was determined not by its past, not by its genes, so much as by its ideas. Nisha and I were talking about this week because she'd seen a program on TV about monkeys and how smart they are. And we were talking about that evolutionary leap from the monkeys to Homo sapiens, and how the neocortex and this ability to come up with ideas and carry them out in very complex ways is what our species was all about. We began to understand the universe in which we found ourselves, a species with unprecedented creativity. So new were these developments that some anthropologists gave this species the name Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise human being. Quite naturally, we turned our new capacities to the creation of a better world for ourselves, a world in which food was plentiful and available all year round, a world in which we could protect ourselves from cold and rain, a world in which disease did not strike us, our young, so often, a world in which we could live longer and more fulfilling lives. We set out with the best of intentions to reduce suffering and be more at peace, but unwittingly, we fell into the trap of assuming that the inner needs we were now experiencing could be met in the same way as our physical needs, through having or doing the right things, not realizing that true peace could only be found within. We were seduced by the material world and all its fruits. Don't you think that's true? Yeah. Just in our own individual evolutions. It's very tricky, especially in a capitalistic culture, to live in a way that we're not so easily seduced by all that we can have and all that we can create in the material world. The things that we create in the material world, not unimportant. They're very, very important. And yet, Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise human beings, we are here on some destiny path, some divine destiny path. The consequences of our error were benign at first. Only later, as our tools grew more powerful, did problems appear. For not only did technology amplify our ability to satisfy our physical needs, it also amplified our ability to satisfy our psychological needs. The burden that we've placed on the world has rapidly increased, and suddenly we find ourselves a threat to millions of species, including our own. Our desires must be met. Our desires must be met. Seeing the writing on the wall, we've begun awaking to our responsibilities, both for what we have done and for what we should do. But now, at the very time we most need to change, we find ourselves unable to let go. Oh, we cling to our many comforts, apparently unwilling to bear the modest discomforts that would enhance our chances of survival. Too many people seem to prefer risking annihilation to giving up their beliefs and attachments. So we stand by watching the living earth erode, the ice falling away in massive sizes of ice as big as certain states. And we wonder how humanity could continue to be so crazy. The crisis has been brewing for millennia upon us. But you know that Chinese kanji that says, kanji is a Japanese word, but you know the form in Chinese that says crisis is opportunity. So it just is that way, that crises often are the drivers. This is possible with humanity today, that perhaps these crises are challenging us to recognize now what is no longer working and seize the opportunity to make a huge leap of change. Crisis can play a crucial role in evolution, and indeed it has, through all the millennia. Crisis, opportunity. The real opportunity that's nestling within our global crisis is the opportunity to develop a new mode of consciousness, a new way of seeing and a new way of thinking. You know this. This is the opportunity. This could be the new evolutionary adaptation that's waiting to happen. Not as we have seen a biological adaptation. There's no time for that. There's no time for that. And even if we could genetically re-engineer ourselves, it would not hit at the heart of the problem. What the crisis is driving us toward is this inner change, a transformation into truly wise human beings, no longer fettered by self-centeredness. It's driving us toward a new perception of ourselves, a new sense of purpose, a new way of being. You know, there was a movie made called Apocalypse Now. And in our lifetimes, we've thought a lot about apocalypse. Apocalypse. A lot of prophecies through the generations have focused on apocalypse. So it's not new, right? There have been dire warnings of tragedies that will befall humanity and even the end of the world. Various dates have been proposed at different times for ultimate catastrophes. For example, at the first millennium AD, people thought that would be the end. There's records of things that were written then. Then in the 12th century, the Cistercian abbot Joachim of Fiore thought that the end would come in the year 1200. And many all across Europe focused on that date of 1200. Then hardly a half century turned without large numbers of people prophesying another end. So it's not surprising to find out how many contemporary prophecies focused on the year 2000 or the year 2012. But then with all of these prophecies of apocalypse, sometimes we get a little numbed to it, right? We say, why should we take this seriously? Why should we be the ones that are taking it more seriously when all these earlier peoples had the same thoughts? Well, there's no reason really, except that this happens to be a time when this global crisis is truly upon us. Never before in human history have the dangers been so acute, nor the likelihood of catastrophe so real. Truly, the planet's biosystem is at stake. Danger seems to be coming from all sides at once, a perfect storm. Suddenly, there's a very good reason to wonder whether we will make it much past the turn of the great turning. Apocalypse Now, the Hopi prophecies. I did a whole talk with you a few years ago on the Hopi prophecies. The Native American Hopi Indians were a prophetic people. They foresaw so many things. They foresaw the coming of the white man, his invention of carriages that need no horses, they saw, his ability to travel all roads in the sky. One part of the Hopi prophecy seemed to predict World War II. Another matches really well with the establishment of the United Nations. And other details the death and destruction that the white man would bring through the atomic bomb, nuclear weapons, because they saw a gourd of ashes being spilled all over the earth, boiling the oceans and burning the land so that nothing could grow wherever they spilled. So the Hopis have seen many things. They saw that man would travel to the moon and build a city in the sky, but that they wouldn't go any further than that. The Hopi prophecy also says that the height of white man's foolishness, at the height of it, a great wisdom will return, coming from the east. Thich Nhat Hanh, others, how Buddhism has flooded the West. And the Hopi said that if he listens to this wisdom, there will come a consciousness transformation and a rebirth of humanity. If not, the Hopi said, the end of all life will immediately follow. This last part is particularly worth noting. It doesn't foretell a fixed future, but a failure could happen around our choice. And that choice is all about a spiritual awakening. It's interesting, isn't it, this notion that wisdom will come from the east. I know probably in every one of your lives here that you've gone into meditation. You've gone into some kind of mindfulness practice. You've gone into some kind of inner practice of inner noticing. It has spread. It has spread all over humanity. In the New Testament, we find Jesus on the Mount of Olives. He was prophetic too. On the Mount of Olives, he foretold a time when there would be many wars, famines, pestilence, and more earthquakes than ever. And he said such things would be a sign that this age was coming to a close. Lots of Christians have interpreted this as a day of judgment. But we should also remember that when Jesus warned of these future tribulations and of religious persecution and false impostors claiming to be the risen Christ, he was speaking not of the end of the world, but he said it was about the pains of birth. The pains of birth. There would be, he declared, a light on the other side. In the book of Revelation, it's always been fascinating to wonder what that book is all about, isn't it? It's about the apocalypse. And it tells about a scroll with 7 seals representing the retributions that must come. The first 4 seals release the famous horsemen bringing war, famine, disease, and death all over the planet. And then the 7 angels with 7 trumpets. 7 bowls are poured out. Ugly and painful things happen. Shedding of blood, the scorching by the sun, great heat, darkness in the deserts, earthquakes like have never been known before. So again, it's easy to see how these predictions appear to be coming true today. But the thing that St. John in the Apocalypse, the Revelation, talked about is that humans would go astray by thinking that their hope and peace would come to them through a secular savior. You've heard that term, the Antichrist. A secular savior that the people would put all of their hope in. But the promises of this person or persons are empty. The wars continue to proliferate and humanity indeed comes to the brink of annihilation. And then the final conflict is there in the book of Revelation called Armageddon. And it's when the light, the Christ consciousness comes over the whole earth and in all the minds and all the hearts of all the people. And it says every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. And I don't look at that in the same way anymore. I look at it in a very positive way, that this light of consciousness will dawn all over the planet and humanity will wake up. Will wake up in time, and the Christ consciousness that we have within us, the I am consciousness, will be there and awakened in every human being. We are beginning to awaken to the real nature of the conflict that we are fighting. The final battle is not really so much out there in the world. It's an inner Armageddon. It's the battle between our ego mind and our higher self. And it's taking place inside of all of us. It's the conflict that each of us is fighting every day. The battle between judging others and blaming others and just letting go and forgiving. It's the battle between fear in any particular moment or love. It's the battle between our cultural conditioning, which is heavy duty, and our inner truth, which is mighty. As the saying goes, we have met the enemy, and the enemy is in us. There are no enemies out there, really. The enemy is in every one of us. And so is the wisdom to see this all the way through. We are not facing others out there on different sides of the battle. We are each on all sides, all facing ourselves. There will at last be peace on earth when this inner peace really reigns within us. Don't you think? That's the truth that we are heading for. The thing of it is, though, there's this thing about time. So I want to bring it back to what was happening to me about time. Now, now, cried the queen, faster, faster. From Alice in Wonderland. The collapse of time, the compression of time. So a lot is happening in our technological world about this acceleration of time. Just an example. Since the birth of the microprocessor in 1971, microprocessor performance has increased 25,000 times. If this pattern continues, the personal computer of 2020 will be as powerful as all of the computers combined that were in Silicon Valley in 1998. And you will be carrying it in a microchip. This is fantastic. Such extraordinary increases in computing power and speed will change how we communicate in ways that we never thought were possible. And we've seen that accelerating. Remember that in 1990, when the World Wide Web was first introduced, no one, not even its originators, had any idea of what it would become. In addition to these and other remarkable technological developments, many of which may build on inventions and discoveries that we can't even foresee today, there's another area of progress that could become even more significant than the technology. It could outpace our accelerating technological development. It must. And this is the development of the human mind/spirit. The next major transition must be the consciousness age, a period when the exploration and development of the human mind will become our major focus. I've heard that many, many experimenters in Silicon Valley are already making mindfulness their major focus of experimentation. If we are to survive these critical times that we're now passing through, it's essential that we undergo a profound shift in our values and awaken to our inner truths and our full spiritual potential. We've been talking about that here for years, haven't we? What is happening in you? Are you accelerating? Even if you're growing older, as we all are, is something inside of you accelerating? Is time compressing? Is something happening inside of you? Buckminster Fuller put it this way: we're facing our final evolutionary exam. Is the human species fit to survive? Can we develop the consciousness that will allow us to use our prodigious powers with wisdom? If our civilization continues, it will be because we have passed this test, and we will have already made the step into the exploration of human consciousness. You know, it's very, very personal. The more we do awaken every day in this accelerated pace inside of our deepest inner selves and free our minds, the freer the plants, the animals, all creatures on planet Earth will become. The more free we become, the more creative we can be. And the more creative we can become, the better that we can apply ourselves to the task of this great awakening. I was at this conference in 1995 in Beijing, China. It was the big women's gathering that was there. And what was her name? Betty Friedan. Wow. Betty Friedan was giving a big workshop there, and they put her in a too small tent. And there were thousands of people that were trying to hear her, so I was standing way in the back trying to hear what she was saying. And she was getting up and getting people to stand up and say, in a few words, what is your vision of the future? What is your vision of the future? And it was weird because nobody could really talk about that. They were all talking about the past or the present moment, the worries, the problems. They were not talking about the future. I'll never forget that moment because she got more and more frustrated. And she said, do you see what's happening, you humans? You've got a blind spot about the future. You've got a blind spot. And this writer says the same thing. He says, we've got a blind spot about the future. We can imagine how things will be if they keep on changing as they are now. And we can even, have some things that are pretty specific about it. But the future scenarios are really so far beyond our imagination, beyond science fiction writers, beyond government think tanks. It's outpacing our human thoughts about the future. The TV series Star Trek, he says, was conceived as happening 200 years in the future, by which time then computers would no longer use magnetic tape and would synthesize human speech. We may not yet bodily have gone beyond our own solar system, but as far as computers are concerned, reality caught up with fantasy in less than 20 years. So there's no reason to believe that we are not making similar errors today about the future. And that if we do survive these challenging times and move on in our evolution, it seems more than probable that the pace of change will continue to quicken, making predictions very unlikely to come from our rational minds. How many of you have, in the dream time, seen things that you can hardly describe? Our dreams are very, very important because it's where the greater mind connects with us. Start writing down your dreams. Start being open to things coming to you that are beyond your wildest imagination. E.T. said, in the movie E.T., now there is more now than there was even a few months ago, and even more now is on the way. So what's on the way? When we say we are one, we are one, we are one, there is a singularity of consciousness that scientists are saying is on the way. When might this occur? One scientist named Werner Vinge charted the acceleration of technological development, and he argued for the date 2035. That's right around the corner. And probably it's going to come sooner than that, the way things are accelerating. Singularity will be the development of the human consciousness towards realizing what the mystics have always talked about, our complete oneness. He says that we will come to this place where we come to what's called time wave zero. Terence McKenna, you know, he worked a lot with plant medicines, but he was a genius thinker, and he came up with a fractal mathematical function that he claimed charted the overall rate of ingression of novelty into the world. The curve that results is not a smooth curve, but one that peaks and troughs corresponding to the peaks and troughs of human history. And as he charted that, I won't go into it all, but he charted this whole path of acceleration of time to 2012. Now, we have passed 2012, and we talked a lot about these things leading up to 2012. We are past it. And we are accelerating into some kind of what's called an evolutionary asymptote, A-S-Y-M-P-T-O-T-E. Asymptotic means that the curve goes vertical, signifying an infinitely fast rate of change. Some say that the asymptote in the near future is going to take us into startling, mind-boggling places that we cannot fathom at all with our rational minds. So that's a little bit kind of what was happening to me in the night. There was something happening with my computer, and then when I went to sleep in the dreams, that was like, what it was sort of like was information coming in from somewhere else that was replacing the information I wrote. It was amazing. Perhaps within our own lifetimes, this author says, we can reach the end of our evolutionary journey. The end of our evolutionary journey. The end of Homo sapiens sapiens into something else, which Joanna Macy talks about. I forget the word she uses, but it's another word for what humanity will be. So we are heading to this place where
The Great Turning.
the great turning. And it talks about it in the Upanishad, and this is what it says about this place where we're headed. From joy, all things are being born. By joy, they are all sustained. And into joy, they again return. So thanks for going on that little journey with me.